Well, we were joined once again by Mayor Bach in our downtown studios. Mayor, thank you very much for making time for us this month. I know you have a lot going on, including the State of the City address that's happening today.
Well, this is the time when I have an opportunity to address the city and all of my fellow citizens and talk about where we've been the last year and hopefully where we can be this time next year. So I'm excited about it. Opportunity again to just share some ideas.
In terms of, when you make the declaration, what is the state of the city of Colorado Springs right now?
Well, John, I feel this way, that now is the time for us to think big and to get big things done in this city. You know, we've had a lot of efforts over many decades, a lot of visioning projects. I remember Citizens Goals back in the 1970s. Great group of people came up with lots of wonderful ideas on how to move our city forward. And then, of course, Dream City 2020 after that. And then, of course, 6035 most recently. Lots of vision, great people, lots of ideas. It's now time to take action. And what I'm talking about, in part, is this Regional Tourism Act proposal that we've made to the state. But it's more than that. It's revitalizing our airport so that it can become an economic engine. It's finding more and more ways to build communities. So there are a number of initiatives I think we simply must pursue, and just looking forward to that.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you first took office, one of the priorities was to kind of put money in the piggy bank, so to speak. And now it seems as if maybe the opportunity to spend a little bit of that money, are we at a good place, at least with our rainy day fund, so we can move ahead with these bigger projects?
Well, when I entered office, we had a very low reserve level. The city had historically worked on a cash reserve equal to about 10% of its annual expenditures. And we know that the Government Finance Officers Association has said that our city should have far more than that. We should have 25% of our annual expenses in reserves because of the volatile nature of our revenue, dependent upon sales and use tax. It varies, of course. And so we've been working hard to get those reserves up. We were able to get to the highest reserve in the history of the city as of the end of last year. I think we had about $54 million in the bank. And then, of course, we had the Wallow Canyon fire last year and the subsequent flooding risk and problems. So with City Council's agreement, which I very much appreciate, we have drawn down some of those reserves for emergency flood mitigation. We need to build them back up. I'm hoping by the end of this year we'll be back up close to where we were last year.
And talking about this tourism, I know the numbers have kind of shifted in terms of experts say it'll bring this many people, there'll be this much money spent. But overall, this project, the idea is to bring out-of-state visitors into our city and to spend money. That's pretty much the key for the success of this project.
Well, John, I've said from the beginning that my number one priority is jobs. We have the highest unemployment in the Front Range of Colorado, higher than the national average. In fact, it just went up again. I think it's 8.4% today. I'm very concerned about that. The number of our citizens who do not have jobs, who are underemployed. And in order for us to have a vibrant community, to be able to fund all the improvements everybody wants, we got to have revenue. And the way to get revenue is to grow the economy, and that's by getting people back to work. So that's where I start. And you know that I think probably now 7 months ago, a group of civic leaders approached me, asked if I would support them putting together a proposal to the state of Colorado for the Regional Tourism Act grant money, which is complicated, but it's basically that if we are able to attract more out-of-state visitors here, the state would agree to rebate to us a portion of the incremental state sales tax that would be collected. You know, most people don't realize we have a 7.4% sales tax rate. The City of Colorado Springs General Fund gets 2%. We don't get all of that. People don't know that. They think, well, gosh, the city's getting 7.4% off of every purchase I make. No, we aren't. We're getting 2%. So it's a small percentage. And we simply don't have enough money to do all the things that are needed, especially after the Wallow Canyon fire and with the backlog of stormwater and roads and bridge infrastructure that we must address. So I offered to give support to the civic leaders that wanted to put together a package. They came back with 4 venues based on their research of successful cities elsewhere and with some professional consulting help. And that includes a downtown Olympic Museum, a downtown multi-use stadium for various kinds of sports, plus other venues like concerts, and then a sports medicine venue at UCCS and a new Air Force Academy Visitor Center. So there's been some concern about how this was developed. The group said to me that we need to keep this confidential because if word gets out to our potential competition by other cities, that could be damaging to our chances. So the proposal was made in June. We're going to launch a robust community conversation. So to your point, we need more revenue. We need to play to our strengths in this community, including we are obviously a wonderful tourist location. So if all 4 of these venues are built, the experts tell me that we will generate an incremental $10 million a year in sales tax revenue. That could do wonders for helping to pay for stormwater, roads, and bridges.
Also, another thing, some successes at the airport, the Colorado Springs Airport. I know there's always a conversation trying to attract other airlines, new flights coming in and out. Right now, where do you feel the airport is in terms of growth and where you want it to be?
Our airport can be a tremendous economic engine for this community, not only in terms of people flying to and from our airport, but all the secondary effects that a vibrant airport can encourage. More companies wanting to locate here as well as near the airport. I talked about unemployment a minute ago. Our biggest unemployment is in southeast Colorado Springs, far higher than the rest of the community. And so we simply must find ways to help those folks get back to work. If we can grow the airport activity and the ancillary businesses that would result from that, that can do wonders to improve unemployment, get people back to work. So a lot going on out there. I'm very thankful that Bill Hibble of El Pomar stepped forward and offered to chair a air service task force. You know, we have 2 goals for the airport. One is affordability. We need to get our fares down so that we're competitive, more competitive with DIA. Secondly is convenience. And we need to have more flights to more locations, direct flights. I think that's very possible. I think Alaska Airlines' commitment to start a direct flight to Seattle on November 2nd, I understand you're going to be with me.
I plan on it, yeah.
We're saving you a seat.
Yeah.
You got to pay for it yourself.
I knew there was
Not going to use taxpayer dollars for that, but I think our airport is a tremendous asset that is going to be a powerhouse of an economic development tool for us. So I'm very thankful to Bill Hibble and to the people he's gathered on his task force, Steve Bach of the Broadmoor, also the Anschutz Foundation, and Scott Blackman, the CEO of the USOC, and Pam Shockley-Zalabak, the Chancellor of the University of Colorado Springs. So I think them working in tandem with the Airport Advisory Commission are going to come up with some new ideas.
So as you look forward to the next year, after this State of the City address, I know it's kind of just here's where we are, but here's where we're going. Where do you want this city to be heading in the next year? When you're going out and you're having these town hall meetings, I know you're talking about the budget, trying to get some opinion from the citizens here. Taking all of that, how do you want Colorado Springs to move forward?
We have several big challenges and some great opportunities. On the challenges side, number 1 is unemployment, jobs. We've got to find more ways to get people back to work. And this Regional Tourism Act will help that. I think the University of Colorado Health, at least the Memorial Health System is another factor. With the branch medical campus that will happen on the UCCS campus can be huge for our region in terms of jobs and healthcare. And so those are all factors. We've got stormwater to deal with. There's a lot of discussion going on about stormwater. Again, I'm proceeding through a second opinion. You know, that Regional Stormwater Task Force estimated that we had $276 million in stormwater needs, 5 years ago. That's now ballooned to $500 million and now to $687 million, which is just astronomical. And it may be accurate, but I think it deserves a second opinion, just as if you were going to get a medical opinion. So we're working through that process with an engineering company that's going to be back to us by early fall. And then once we have that information and can complete an analysis of all the ways to fund stormwater, then I'll begin a conversation with City Council, County Commissioners, and the other regional stakeholders to determine the best course. But it's going to take money, a lot of money. That's not all though, John. Our roads and bridges are not where they should be. You know, we're resurfacing, I think, 2% of our roads every year. It should be 10 to 12%. So we're falling further and further behind. So we've got to find creative and innovative ways to serve the community with limited dollars. And so lots of different initiatives. I think the main thing is that we need to think big, and it's time to get big things done. And so that'll be my focus next year.
And you mentioned a lot of names that are really helping you out, but In terms of kind of coming together with as many people as you possibly can and heading direct, do you feel as if the right people are in place right now to kind of move ahead with these big projects, to get things done?
Well, again, we've spent decades talking about what we want to become. We've had multiple community-led visioning exercises, all helpful in terms of trying to define what kind of a city we want to be, but we haven't been able to take, in my opinion, concrete action in a big way. We now have on the table this Regional Tourism Act proposal that is big. And I just ask people to withhold judgment till we can get all the facts out. I don't expect people today who don't really understand the concept or haven't been informed to really know. But we will be all around this community over these coming months talking about why this is worth considering and how it will help our community. There are going to be no tax increases involved, period, if I'm around. That's not in the cards. And if we're going to borrow any money as a city, if we end up having to borrow some money, I'll ask the voters to approve that. So everybody should just realize this is a new idea. We've got to think differently. This is a time for reinvention and innovation. So let's play this out. Let's see how this Regional Tourism Act proposal evolves. We need state approval to start. We're underway with that, and then the community will decide.
Recently, it was announced that USA Basketball is actually leaving Colorado Springs and moving to Phoenix. I know that's kind of out of your jurisdiction, but is that any sort of indicator of what's happening in the future, or is that just kind of an isolated incident?
Well, disappointed that USA Basketball is moving to Arizona. We worked really hard trying to support Scott Blackman and the USOC and Tom Osborne of the Sports Corp to keep him here, but they pretty much made that decision some time ago. I think they believe they can generate a lot more fundraising by being in a bigger market, and Phoenix and Tempe are a huge basketball area. You know, the Phoenix Suns, for example, and Arizona State University have outstanding basketball programs. They'll still hold their camps up here, or at least their summer camps. So it's disappointing, but that, you know, it's 15 jobs, but it was also the prestige of having USA Basketball here. I will tell you today, there's a luncheon in Colorado Springs today. I can't attend because of my remarks at the State of the City, but there's a luncheon today with another national governing body thinking about moving here. In fact, there are two thinking about moving here. So we're going to have gains, we're going to have some losses along the way. I will say this to you. A year ago, I suggested that we have a community goal of having 6,000 more civilians employed per year for the years 2013 through 2015. One tabloid pundit referred to that as laughable, honestly. Well, we're a year later, and according to the statistics we now have, last June to this June, we've gained 5,975 civilians employed. So we missed the mark by 25. Now, if you look at this calendar year from January through June, it's not quite as good. And I think it's a result of sequestration. January through June of this year, if you annualize that, we will have about 5,400 more civilians employed. Somewhat off the mark, but certainly an improvement. So we're moving ahead. We need to move ahead a lot better than we are. I'd like to see that goal even higher, but I thought we should start with one that is stretched, but that we can make. So it's encouraging. We got a lot more work to do.
I guess we haven't actually spoken since City Council voted to opt out of marijuana retail sales in Colorado Springs. When you found out the vote, what was your reaction?
Well, I'm very thankful that 5 of the councilors showed courageous leadership in the face of a lot of emotional discourse there. It's a very tough decision. I think I told you before, I have struggled with that myself. I believe in the free markets and individual liberties. Now, keep in mind again, this law, Amendment 64, not only allows people 21 and older to smoke marijuana on a recreational basis in private, by the way, not in public, but that law also contained an opt-out provision for locales like ours, municipalities like Colorado Springs, that we could elect locally to opt out of allowing commercial sales of recreational marijuana. So the law stands, people are going to be able to use the drug recreationally. We are not going to promote the commercial sales of recreational marijuana in Colorado Springs. We're sending a strong message to the military and our primary employers in doing that. We are America's Olympic city. We are maybe the healthiest community, certainly in the Rocky Mountains, if not in the entire country. We pride ourselves on outdoor recreation and wellness. That's how we want to be known. And so I'm very thankful for council's decision. It allowed me to avoid having to veto had they decided to opt in. And we'll get through this, and people can still use the drug. They're just going to have to drive a little bit to get it.
Mayor Bach, thank you very much for your time.